Please welcome Cindy Williams.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? I feel like I'm wired here. So I might have you turn the lights on because you're going to do an activity with me. Like she said, I'm Cindy Williams from the Meadowlark Extension District. My office is located in Oskaloosa. How many of you have been to Oskaloosa and know where that's at? Oh, awesome. Okay. Give me a second. I'll put my computer on and then we'll be ready. Whoops. Maybe even plug that in back there. Okay. Oh, awesome. Perfect. While I'm doing this, kind of getting switched around here, you should find a food safety quiz in there. I'd like for you to take a few minutes and go over that. You should have a pen and answer there's 8 questions. One of the things I receive a lot of questions about is food safety and food preservation and food preparation. So it's an important aspect of cooking. So I'd like for you to take a few minutes and answer those questions there. I know there's some of you that should get a perfect score on this because you've had some of the same training that I've had. I won't mention any names, but their initials are. By the sounds of it, are you finished? All right. As they stated, I answer a lot of questions about food safety, and I think that's an important thing to consider. How many of you like to eat food? Raise your hand. Oh, 100%. How surprising, huh? How many of you like to take food out to, say, the park or carry it to someone or out to the field or something like that? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. How many of you are busy? I know we're all busy and we have things to do. And hopefully the information I share with you today will help with that. The other question I have for you, how many of you like to be sick? No hands up. That's kind of surprising with all the flu that we've had. And I just heard this morning from the CDC, they're not sure that we've even peaked with that flu yet. And unfortunately, 83 children have died from this across the United States. How sad. Unfortunately, people can die if our food is not from food-borne illnesses. One of the things, I was in Manhattan all this week for training, and one of the things that they shared is in order for you to believe it, you've got to feel it, or you've got to experience it. How many of you have ever known anybody that's had a foodborne illness? Okay. How many of you have known someone that has died from a foodborne illness? Yes. It happened 25 years ago. Those of you from Jefferson County, some of you know, I think you'll remember this. We had a gentleman that died from homemade ice cream at a 4th of July picnic. It was tainted eggs that came from Kentucky. There was 3 batches. He was an older gentleman that had a weakened immune system, and unfortunately he passed away. So his widow and I remember that very well because it was the day before my son was born, 25 years ago. And because of that, I get lots of questions about that, and you better believe that family and people that knew this gentleman, he was very involved in our livestock sale and auction, so a lot of 4-H'ers knew him and things like that. It all of a sudden becomes a very serious issue. So when we serve food, we have a very healthy food supply, and the good news about it is a lot of things have to go wrong before you actually get sick. And so that's the good news about it. Why am I bringing this up when we're talking about from freezer to field? The reason I'm bringing this up is because there's lots of things that can go wrong in that process. And I'm not just talking about taking food to the field. I'm talking about when you take food to a picnic or a potluck. Do any of you do any of that? Yeah, okay. Just recently I took a whole meal to a couple in Oskaloosa. She had fallen on the ice, and so I took them a meal and things like that. So it's not just when we take food to a field, it's any time that we prepare food. So let's see how you did on our quiz here. So, those of you that know me, and I'm looking at one right now that knows me, you're not going to sit there. So we're going to have a little activity, because you know sitting is the new smoking. Have you heard that? Okay, so guess what? You're not going to sit. So here's your instructions. If you think the answer is yes, I want you to stand up. Now don't do it just yet. If you think the answer is no, you sit down. And if you think it's maybe, I want you to put your hand up in the air, okay? To see, okay? There are some yes and no questions on here. So the first one, how long would food stored consistently at 0 degrees remain safe? How many of you think it's A? Stand up. No, stand up. There you go. How many of you think it's B? 2 years? No, stay standing. Stay standing. If you think it's yes, or 1 to 2 years. How many of you think it's indefinitely? Raise your hand. All right, the C's have it. Okay. Now, I could argue this a little bit. These are some common questions that I get. Actually, the answer is indefinitely. I could argue this point, and some of you can argue with me. Food will be safe indefinitely at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, although the quality will decrease the longer it's in the freezer. So I would accept A too, because most of the time when we're doing freezer meals, you usually prepare for a year, although most recipes will tell you use within 3 months. So that's something to consider. When you call and ask me questions, I'll say use it within a year. Try to use it. We also try to practice FIFO. Does anybody know what FIFO means? Food service, right? You work in food service, no? Okay. Tell me what it is.
First in, first out.
Absolutely. First in, first out. How do we know that? How can we tell? Oh, the date. That's right. So it's important. Hi, Henrietta. I didn't realize you were there. Most of this, how many of you have done this? Is you put it in the freezer and you go, I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember what this was. And when it comes time to clean out the freezer, guess what? It's mystery meat. I can't remember. Okay, what happens to that food then? It gets probably to the trash can. And that's not saving us any money. And I'm all about saving money and being resourceful with our food and things like that. Question number 2. What temperature is recommended for your refrigerator? If you think it's A, stand up. If you think it's B, sit down. If you think it's C, raise your hand. Oh, awesome. Perfect score there. 40 degrees. Can anyone tell me why it's 40 degrees? Now, I know some of you by your first name, and I know some of you probably know this, so I can pick on you. Why is it not 32? That's right, it would be freezing. So, but what we have to remember is 40, the temperature between 40 and 140 is called the temperature danger zone. What happens at those temperatures, in between those temperatures? What happens? What grows? Bacteria. Bacteria. Guess what? What's room temperature? Is it in that danger zone? Okay, how many of you don't have to answer this, I probably already know, thaw your Thanksgiving turkey on the counter for, say, a day? No, somebody's raising their hand over there. We need to chat. Okay. One thing I'm hoping to dispel is that you use safe food safety practices. Now see, food safety can be fun, can't it? Because we're going to make it fun. It's very pertinent, and I don't ever want to hear or learn that you're the next victim of food-borne illness. More than likely, all of you have had it. You just didn't know it. And a lot of food-borne illness never gets reported. Some of you are nurses in here, and if you talk to nurses, I've asked nurses this question, is food-borne illness really a problem? They said, absolutely. If you see the people that are in the hospital and ICU and those kinds of things. Recently, I had a kidney infection, and I went to my doctor and I said, how did I get this? She said, well, first of all, it's E. coli, and I'm going, oh my gosh, and it causes a lot of things. So E. coli, we know, is associated with beef, and it comes through the hide, it comes through the manure and things like that, but it can cause kidney infection. And I'll tell you what, it's been 22 years since I've been in labor, and I had that feeling again, and that was not a comfortable feeling. So anyway, yes, the answer for 2 is 40 degrees. Question number 3, since only the inside of melons, such as watermelons, are eaten, does their outer rind need to be washed? If the answer is yes, stand up. If you think it's no, sit down. Absolutely. Let's give a round of applause to these people right here. Absolutely. Why does the watermelon or the cantaloupe need to be washed? That's right. When you cut through it, guess what that knife has on it? Anytime you poke a roast or you cut that melon, bacteria is everywhere. And so you're exposing that by cutting through it, things like that. So think about that the next time you poke a thermometer in there. You'll want to take an alcohol wipe to sanitize it because you're exposing bacteria to it. Can't get around it. Bacteria is everywhere. Aren't you happy to know that? Especially with this flu season. So when we're talking about this flu season, what's the number one thing that we can do to help protect ourselves?
Wash your hands.
Absolutely. Wash your hands frequently when you go to the bathroom, when you work with meat and then work with something else. Hand washing is very, very critical to that. And keep those hands away from your face. Oh, we have people using sanitizer over here. Very good. Good for you. I'm glad you really internalized that and practiced that. So anyway, okay, moving on to question number 4. Remember, if you think the answer is yes, I want you to stand up. If you think the answer is no, sit down. If you think it's maybe, then what do? Raise your hand. So if food tastes okay, is it safe to eat? Stand up if you think it's yes. Sit down if you think it's no. If you think it's maybe, raise your hand. Very good. You are so smart. Okay. Maybe. Although you can't count on your taste, smell, or sight to tell if food is safe to eat, Even if tasting it can tell, why risk getting sick? All it takes is just a little bit for you to get sick. My heart goes out to senior citizens. Do you know some senior citizens that their taste isn't quite like it used to be? You know, when you have a cold, you can't taste anything like that, and theirs is permanently like that. How about they can't see very well, some of those things? And I truly have a passion for this because I really feel, well, I don't feel, I know this happened. My grandmother lived on a farm in Nebraska. She couldn't smell, she couldn't taste, and she was eating some things she shouldn't have. And the doctor equates that to to her death, and I think that happens a lot, and I feel like that's very, very scary. And it's not like they don't know, it's just that their body doesn't have those attributes anymore to detect some of those kinds of things. So anyway, okay, moving on to question number 5. Should you wash raw meat and poultry before preparing it? If you think the answer is yes, please stand up. If you think the answer is no, you can sit down. The correct answer is no. Why do you think the answer is no? We're preparing turkey for dinner today, and we're going to wash it, and what happens? Water splatters all over, so you just expose the sink, the counters, all those kind of things. That is a common belief that you should wash your turkey or your chicken. And the correct answer is no. You don't need to wash that because you're just spreading the germs. It increases cross-contamination. When I'm talking about cross-contamination, what am I talking about? Okay, so let's say I have a cutting board here, I'm cutting up, some meat, and then we decide we're going to have a chopped salad. Do I use the same cutting board to cut up the vegetable? Oh, good, yes. Different cutting board, or sterilize it, and different utensils. Because there's 2 things that are commonly known with foodborne illness. Cross-contamination is one way to get it, and the other one is improper cooling. Okay, number 6. How long should you store leftovers in the refrigerator? A, 3 to 4 days, B, 1 to 2 weeks, or C, 3 weeks? What is it? If you think it's A, stand up. Okay. How about C, 3 weeks? Okay, very good. The correct answer is A. We don't wait until it's green and growing and ready for a science experiment, okay? That's kind of dangerous, and then you go and smell it and those kinds of things, and so we don't want that situation to happen. Okay. Commonly it's known that you use leftovers within 3 to 4 days and discard any food. If you can't use it within 3 to 4 days, what should you do with it? Freeze it if it can be frozen, okay? Some foods are not recommended to be frozen, and those are the high moisture ones like lettuce and radishes and some of those kinds of things. Have you ever tried freezing lettuce? Anybody? Okay. You won't do it again. My children tried that when they were younger. It didn't go well. So anyway, I'm sure you can relate to it too. Sometimes we have to make mistakes to learn from those mistakes. Question number 7, if you've never gotten sick from food that you prepare, even though you don't follow food safety guidelines, could it make someone else sick? A, yes. You think that's true? B, sit down. Okay, correct answer is yes. There are some very susceptible groups. The first one is infants. The second one is pregnant women. Another group is those with weakened immune systems or the elderly. Just because you don't get sick doesn't mean they won't get sick. And that's an important thing to remember. When I was teaching Serve Safe classes, and that's food safety to businesses, I had a food inspector inspector come one time. I can't believe he said this, but he did. He goes, well, I saw my turkey out on the counter, and I'm going, oh, that's not the answer we want to hear. But he says, I know who's sitting at my table. Yeah, but do you know if they're pregnant or not? I'm not going to ask you today if you're pregnant. So anyway, but think about that just a little bit. Just like with this auctioneer that I was talking about, he had a disease and things like that. No one else. There was a few others that got sick, but it was critical to him. So think about that. I didn't get sick. I never get sick. I have safe food. But you've got to think about the other people sitting at that table. Okay, question number 7. Oh, we already did that. Question number 8 for best quality. How soon after purchasing does the United States Department of Agriculture recommend using eggs? If the correct answer is A, stand up. If you think it's B, sit down. If you think it's C, raise your hand. Okay, the correct answer is those sitting down. They recommend 3 to 5 weeks. The main thing about eggs is eggs get a bad rap because of salmonella. Salmonella is easily killed at 140 degrees. If you don't know what 140 degrees is, that's what your dishwasher should be set at. And about 1/3 of the eggs have that bacteria in them. So, guess what we say about eating raw cookie dough that contains eggs? Should you do it? No, you should not do it, okay? Yes.
What about farm fresh?
It's the same thing because it's encased. She's asking me about farm fresh eggs. And the same thing is true because that bacteria is actually encased in the egg. And so there isn't anything you did wrong or anything like that. It's just there. And it can be on chicken too. So for safety measures, avoid eating raw cookie dough or ice cream. That was the main thing after this incident, death happened, is people were asking me, like banana split dessert, do you have anyone know about banana split dessert? Anything with raw eggs in it should not be consumed until it's had a heat treatment, okay? So what do? I want to make ice cream. I've got the best recipe in the world. It was my grandma's, and it calls for raw eggs. You call me? Well, you can call me, but what am I going to tell you? You use a pasteurized egg product, okay, with that, and that's a safer way to go. Remember, you may not know everybody that's going to consume this in that case. Questions or comments about food safety? That was a big, I take hours and hours of training on that. You got the cliff notes, okay, on that. We are here today, and I wanted to reinstate that to talk about freezer meals, and that's important to keep food safety in mind as you're doing that. I'm sorry, who had a question? Yes.
What about over easy egg?
Over easy egg, are you, okay, now over,
Yolk is
the bacteria is still there. You and I don't know, we can't look at it and say it's there or it's not there. You're eating at your own risk. Have you ever seen in restaurants where they put an asterisk there? You're eating this at your own risk, okay? That is why they don't serve those in nursing homes. What a real susceptible audience and things like that. So you have to be really careful with that kind of stuff. That's why you don't bring home canned foods to the nursing home. That seems like a great humanitarian thing to do. We don't know. And it's not been tested. Home canned food has not been tested. You can do it correctly and still have problems. So, okay, how am I doing on my time here? Oh, 8 minutes, okay. I got a lot to cover here. Okay, one of the best things you can do is invest in a thermometer. Excuse me. How many of you have a thermometer at home? Is it a candy thermometer? Is it a meat thermometer? Is it, yes? Both? Okay, very good. Well, I have a meat thermometer. You might look like this. Some of you might have used this at Christmas time. This is a candy thermometer. And this is digital read thermometer. guess what? They all serve a different purpose. And I have some thermometers here today I was going to give out. I just did a workshop in Centralia about a couple weeks ago. Guess what I had? This is an instant read thermometer, didn't we, Karen? Because we had chicken that we were doing an electric pressure cooker. And to tell if it was done or not, we used this. And chicken needs to read 165 degrees internal temperature to make sure it's done. Otherwise, you overdo it, and it's tough, and it's not very desirable. So invest in a good thermometer. That's always helpful. Please let me know when my time is done. I went to our local grocery store, and we're thinking about doing freezer meals. Please use recipes that your family likes. Do not use the recipes I have here until you've tested them on your family. You don't want 2 or 3 batches and then all of a sudden, oh, where'd you get that recipe? Okay. These are some of my favorite recipes. Like I said, I've done several workshops and things like that. One of the first things you want to do is you'll want to decide if you want to invest in containers. God bless my grandma, but sometimes it would take you 30 minutes to find what you needed in the refrigerator. And why was that? Because they were in cold containers, they were in butter containers, they were in bread sacks and things like that. My grandma grew up in the dirty 30s, so I'm very conservative. But those are single-use items. Those are okay if you want to put things in from Thanksgiving and haul it home. That's okay, but not for long-term food storage, okay? So when you invest in containers, I just happened to get some in our grocery store in Oskaloosa, and I was kind of amazed. Here's some freezerware, plastic ones. Now it is an initial investment. You might already have some of these things at home. And I certainly encourage you to do that. This was ovenware. You can go ahead, you'll want to be sure and read to make sure it is safe to store or freeze in. Not all containers are created equal, okay? So if it says storage, you might want to rethink about it. It's not near as heavy, is it? The storage bags that you might put foods in, the freezer ones are a lot heavier, aren't they? And that will affect the quality of the food. Now that, I'm anxious to try this one because it's both. So what do you think that's like? We'll have to take that one out and take a look at it. But it says 2-in-1 bags, it's freezer and storage. How about that? I never have seen that before. It will also tell you if it's safe to go in the oven. And this one is safe up to 400 degrees. So you might want to be a little careful what you put in it. You don't want to put in that recipe that goes up to 450 degrees and all of a sudden you don't have a dish anymore. So those are